And the Trump administration is making good on its often stated promise to take the fight directly to ISIS. More U.S. Marines and Army Rangers are joining the battle inside Syria and the ISIS stronghold of Raqqa.
The exact numbers and locations of the forces are still a sensitive order to protect the location of the forces, but there will be approximately an additional 400 enabling forces deployed under existing authorities for a temporary period.
All right, you just heard Sean Spicer say this deployment is for a temporary period. But can mission creep be avoided? Tom Rogan writes all about matters of war as a columnist for National Review, and Opportunity Lives. All right, Tom, good to have you here.
Good to be with you.
Syrian President Bashar al-Assad has just come out and called U.S. forces deployed in Syria invaders because they're there without government permission. So how's this going to work?
Well, look, I think the key thing here is that what you have seen from President Trump in this relatively quick deployment, at least compared to President Obama, of more ground forces, conventional ground forces, but special operations capable, to Syria, is actually a rebuttal in a lot of ways to what the campaign narrative of Trump was, that he was going to be more sympathetic to Assad. Obviously, the Syrians are very upset about this. They do not like American ground presence there. They don't like that because that produces a moment of pause in their own calculations, because they know the power of the United States military. And once the U.S. military is there, they have to be careful because essentially they don't want their people to die.
And what more do we know about the planned operation as a whole? You know, what will these additional troops be doing?
Well, so in the case of the Marines, I had a piece this week talking about what I think they're going to be doing, which I suspect will be forward air controlling and directing artillery power in support of Syrian Arab predominantly, but also Syrian Kurdish ground forces who are moving to encircle and retake the city of Raqqa. But there is another indicator here in these deployments, in the sense that I think they show there will be more special operations forces on the ground to a degree that we didn't see with President Obama in the incursion into Mosul. That those special operation forces will be there because to deliver that artillery power and that air power, the Marines and the Rangers, who are a little bit further away, actually need people who are very much near the front so they can actually have the communication line to say, okay, here's the target, deliver fire here. And in a civilian environment, if you don't have those well-trained people, civilian casualties occur.
And talk to us about how it works with other countries being involved as well, Russia specifically.
Well, so the Russians, this is the big gambit, this is the big question, and there are all the other issues with President Trump and the Russians prospectively, but in this case, this is not something the Russians would like, certainly not, because the Russian angle is to create a binary narrative where for the West you either accept Assad or you accept ISIS being in power. And with the United States being in a position here to influence not just the battle for Raqqa, but what happens next in those areas. Who has power? Do the Kurds have power? Do the Syrian Arabs have power? Or does Assad, aligned with Iran and Russia, who are not so predisposed to the Arabs who live in that area, do they have power? So it's a lot of power games, and I think President Trump, frankly, I've been a critic of his, but he deserves credit for this because it shows foresight.
And real quick, how does this look for the bigger plan?
It looks good. I'm pleasantly surprised. I think it shows American presence and willingness. The only way, in the end, the Syrian conflict is going to be resolved is if there's a transition of power away from Assad to some degree. This deployment suggests that President Trump, to some degree, understands that, and that he's going to pressure the Russians to that end.
All right, very good. Tom Rogan, thanks for being with us today.
You.